Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of the new cards coming to us in Edge of Eternities. Now, we've already seen some of the cards coming thanks to the most recent MagicCon and some of the pre-spoiler season stuff, but now we're actually getting into the bulk of spoiler season for Edge of Eternities, so I wanted to catch up on some of the new cards coming out, talk about them, and hopefully get some of your insights on these new cards as well. So let's get started with white. Now, I've gone through the filters here, and I've gotten rid of all of the special treatments, all the stuff that would be commander-only cards. So what we're looking at here is just new cards coming to standard, and no special foil treatments or anything like that. So that way we don't get muddied up by looking at the same card more than once. So let's get through it. Starting off with white, we have the Asteli Reclaimer, 3 colorless and 2 white mana for a 5/4 Flying Angel Warrior that says, when this creature enters, return target non-creature, non-land permanent card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast this creature. Okay, so cool. So, and it is Warp 3. So basically that means if you warp it in, this will come in and will bring back a non-land permanent card with mana value 3 or less because you spent 3 mana to warp it in. And then you play it again for 5 later, and she will bring back something that costs 5 or less. That is an amazing card, an amazingly annoying card, because it's going to be getting you so much extra value. And the fact that it's a 5/4 Flying Angel, which is a relevant creature type, for only 5 mana, is nothing to scoff at. That's actually a really decent card. I like it a lot. So, next up, let's take a look at this card over here. This is Halia, Guided by Light. It's a 3/3 for 3. It's a human soldier, legendary creature, that reads, whenever Halia or another creature or artifact you control enters, gain 1 life. Okay, that's really good. Great enabler for a life gain deck. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card if you've gained 3 or more life this turn, and it has a warp cost of 1. That is amazing. That is a fantastic card. I like that a lot. Very, very nice. I think this card will actually see quite a lot of play, especially because it has a warp cost of only 1, and it's a 3/3, and it's a life gain enabler and a life gain payoff as well. That's really good. I like that. Seriama, we've seen that one already. It's the new spacecraft for white. Yep. Now we're moving into blue here. We have Consult the Star Charts. This is a pretty cool one. And honestly, this is going to be a card that I can see a lot of play coming from, because it's just a really good draw spell. So it's 1 in a blue with a kicker cost of 1 in a blue. So you can play this for 2 or for 4 if you want to. And it says, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of lands you control. Put 1 of those cards into your hand if this spell was kicked, but 2 of those cards into your hand instead. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. So based off of how many lands you have in play, this card, it just gets better and better and better. In the early game, let's say you play it when you have 3 or 4 lands, then you get to look at up to 4 lands and then put up to 2 of those cards into your hand at instant speed. That's really strong. But then the later the game goes, let's say you have 7 lands in play, you cast Consult the Star Charts, you kick it, you look at 7 cards, and then you put 2 of them into your hand. That's amazing. That's a fantastic draw spell. I will definitely be playing that. Next up is the Emissary Escort. 0/4 for 2 mana. Artifact creature, Robot Soldier. This creature gets +X/+O, where X is the greatest mana value among other artifacts you control. Okay, so it's decent. Pretty decent, actually, for only being 2 mana. If you have something that costs 3 or 4 out, then boom, that's a 2 mana 3/4 or 4/4. That's actually pretty decent, all things considered. I mean, it doesn't really do anything else other than just being a stat stick. I think it'd be cool if it had another ability, maybe Vigilance or First Strike or Flying or something along those lines. But for it just being a 0/4 whose power is predicated on something else already being in play, not that hot. Next up, we have the Quantum Riddler. 5 mana, 4/6 Sphinx has Warp 2 and reads Flying. When this creature enters, draw a card. Okay, that's already awesome. As long as you have one or fewer cards in hand, if you would draw one or more cards, you draw that many cards plus one instead. Okay, awesome. I like that a lot. This really lends itself to being played in a deck that plays out its hand pretty quickly. So maybe you play something that's pretty aggressive, like say maybe you play Izzet or maybe even a form of like Dimir Tempo that plays its hand out quickly. And then you get the Quantum Riddler out, and then suddenly you're starting to draw more cards to refill your hand. This is a pretty good top end for a deck like that wants to play its early hand out quickly. I like that. And then we have the Starfield Vocalist, 4 mana for a 3/4 human bard. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So it's like a blue Panharmonicon kind of effect, and has a warp cost of only 2. So that's actually pretty decent, because you can warp this in when you're playing something else, and then play it again later for its full cost. Okay, next up we have the Emissary Escort. 2 mana for a 0/4 robot soldier. Oh, wait a minute. We already saw that card. That's this card right here. I thought I filtered all those out. My bad. Sorry. Let's move on. Black. We have 6 black cards. So we have Alfariel, Stone Chosen. 5 mana for a 3/3 legendary creature human cleric. And it has a ward cost of discard a card at random. That's pretty huge. Discarding card at random is so much stronger than just discard a card. So be very careful if you're trying to hit Alfariel with targeted removal. It has a void cost, or a void ability, that says whenever Alfariel attacks, if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or a spell was warped this turn, defending player loses half their life rounded up. That is a really strong ability. Now, here's the only thing that I don't like about this card, is the fact that it is only a 3/3, but it costs 5 mana. It has a very strong ability, but he doesn't have any keywords to back himself up. He doesn't have Death Touch, he doesn't have First Strike, he just has the ability to half your life. And there are other safer ways to pull this off. However, a good thing about this card is you can pair it pretty well with Bloodletter of Alcazatz, and then just make someone lose the game immediately, because they'll lose half their life and then lose that half again because of the Bloodletter. So that is a potential good thing about this. I think most people that would want to play this, though, would probably just play Unstoppable Slasher instead. But that's just me. Next up, we have the Arch Enemy's Charm. Very cool card here. It's 3 black mana, instant, choose 1. Exile target creature, planeswalker. Return 1 or 2 target creature, 1 or 2 target creature and or planeswalker cards from your graveyard to your hand. That is probably one of the strongest raised dead effects I've ever seen. And then we have put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. It gains lifelink until end of turn. That's pretty good. So you can choose one of those 3 effects, and all 3 of those effects are very, very useful in different situations. Pardon me. So yeah, it's good removal, good recursion, and a pretty decent combat trick all in one. That's a really, really good charm. I like that a lot. Next is Corral of the Void, or Coral. I'm unsure how to pronounce that. It says 4 mana, that's 3 colors and a black. Enchantment Aura, enchant creature you control. It says whenever enchanted creature attacks, put target creature card from defending player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, tapped and attacking. Wow, that's insane. And as a void ability, at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice this aura unless a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn or a spell was warped. Okay, so this is a card that wants to be played in a warp deck, or wants to be played in maybe a self-sacrifice deck, or just a heavy removal deck, because you're going to need the ability to get things off the table or warp something, because you're basically going to need to have void triggering every turn of these of this this card's existence. This needs to have void triggering all the time. Otherwise, you're pretty much only going to get one good usage of Corral of the Void. But very cool card out of the way. Elegy Acolyte is next. 2 colorless, 2 black for 4/4 lifelink human cleric. So based off of the mana cost to stats, it's actually looking pretty good. But let's see what else it has. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Okay, so it's a Gix already, so that's pretty good. A Gix with lifelink and +1. So that right there, really good card. Void. At the beginning of your end step, if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or a spell was warped this turn, create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. That's a really good card. I mean, paying 4 definitely is a lot more than paying only 3 when you're talking ratios, but 4 for a 4/4 with lifelink that has all those abilities, I think I might find a place for it. That's a pretty cool card. We have Sothera the Superboard. We've already seen that one. Sunset Saboteur is another new card here. So 1 and a black for 4/1 human rogue with menace and a ward cost of discard a card. So already pretty decent. And it says whenever this creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and opponent controls. Okay, so there's the drawback. So this needs to be blocked by at least 2 creatures, otherwise the opponent's just taking 4 from it. And it has a ward cost of discard a card, making it difficult to deal with favorably. So either you deal with it in combat or discard an extra card to use spot removal on it. Or just let it hit you, and hopefully the creature that you have that the +1/+1 counter is going to go onto happens to be better than the Sunset Saboteur. Now, however, if you're playing the deck correctly, Sunset Saboteur, the +1/+1 counters won't matter too much because you'll be playing plenty of removal to get rid of those creatures. So I think Sunset Saboteur might be really good aggro card. Interesting to check it out. Speaking of aggro, let's take a look at red. We got some images that aren't really showing up, so we might have to pass this one for now. So we'll go to the ones that are showing up. So we have a Warmaker gunship. It's 2 in a red for a 4/3 artifact spacecraft. And this says, when this spacecraft enters, it deals damage equal to the number of artifacts you control to target a creature and opponent controls. Okay, pretty decent. So it's something that can come in and blow something up immediately. That's good. And it has a station ability, meaning you can tap down creatures to put charge counters on it. And once it gets to 6, it becomes a 4/3 with flying. Now, again, if I'm going to be tapping down 6 power worth of creatures, I'd rather be tapping them to just straight up attack. So, but hey, that's just me. And then aside from that, we have weapons manufacturing. 1 and a red enchantment. Whenever a non-token artifact you control enters, create a colorless artifact token named Munitions with, when this token leaves the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target. So that's a really cool effect, but here's the thing. The munitions don't sacrifice themselves. You will need to find a way to sacrifice the munitions. And there are plenty of good ways to do that if you're playing Rakdos Sacrifice. You can definitely make use of like the bargain mechanic to make use of weapons manufacturing, or any other thing that requires you or has an ability for you to sacrifice artifacts. So weapons manufacturing could be a pretty cool build around. I like it. All right, now let's look at green. Bioengineered Future. Gorgeous art on that. 1 and 2 green. Enchantment. And reads, when this enchantment enters, create a lander token. Now, if you don't know, a lander token is an artifact with the ability of pay 2 colorless, tap it, sacrifice the token, search your library for a basic land card, put onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So it's basically at least I believe so, it is an improved clue token. So rather than just drawing a card off the top, you go and thin your deck by grabbing a land out of your library and putting it directly into play. And then we have each creature you control enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each land that enter the battlefield under your control this turn. So again, really cool effect. So let's say you play your land for turn, and then you crack a lander token, go get another land from your deck, put it into play. And let's say also you happen to have a fetch land in play. You sacrifice, go get another land, put it into play. Boom, that's 3 +1/+1 counters to any creatures you play this turn. Pretty cool. I like that a lot. That's a cool effect. Then we have Famished World Sire. That's insane. So 5 colorless and 3 green for a 0/0 Leviathan. So anytime we see the term Leviathan, we usually know it's going to be a giant creature. So let's read it. So ward 3, and it has Devour Land 3. As this creature enters, you may sacrifice any number of lands. It enters with 3 times that many +1/+1 counters on it. Okay, so let's say it comes in and you sacrifice 3 lands. That means it comes in as a 9/9. That's pretty bonkers. When this creature enters, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is this creature's power. Put any number of land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Okay, that's pretty awesome. So let's say you sacrifice 5 lands. So that's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Comes in as a 15/15. And then you look at the top 15 cards of your library, and you put all those lands directly into play. I'm sure you're going to find at least 5 lands out of 15 cards off the top of your library. That's really, really good. Really expensive to pull off, but that's a cool effect. I like it a lot. Okay, and then next up we have the Frenzied Baloth. Now, I saw this card before, but I need to talk about it because this card is just insane. For 2 green mana, it is a 3/2 beast. This spell can't be countered. Trample and haste. Creature spells you control can't be countered. Combat damage can't be prevented. So that last part, not really too relevant. The combat damage can't be prevented is not something that's been relevant in a very long time. But this spell can't be countered and creatures you control can't be countered, that is just a middle finger to any blue player, and I can see that being very, very played in the near future. That is an amazing card. And then next we have Ouroboros, whatever that means. So 1/3 Plant Worm for 4 mana. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, where X is the creature's power. Let's reread that. 1/3. At the beginning of combat in your turn, put a X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, where X is this creature's power. Okay, cool. I like that. So we play Bioengineered Future first. We get 2 or 3 lands into play. This comes in with 3 +1/+1 counters on it, making it a 4/6. And at the beginning of combat in your turn, you put X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, so it's going to be 4 +1/+1 counters to the rest of your team. That's pretty bonkers. That's an instant like party in a box kind of creature. That's pretty cool. Even if you don't have that combo and you just play the Ouroboros and you have like a wide army of creatures, you just boom, everybody gets big. That's pretty bonkers. I like that a lot. And it says each creature you control, so that counts the Ouroboros. So every turn, the Ouroboros will get bigger, and thus will make your team that much bigger exponentially as well. This will be played very well with cards like Hardened Scales or the Ozolith. Really, really cool card. I like that a lot. And here we have Terra Symbiosis. So it's 2 and a green, enchantment. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, you may draw that many cards. Do this only once each turn. Okay, so boom, boom, boom. +1 counters matter. Terra Symbiosis, draw a bunch of cards. That is pretty insane. So 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, you may draw that many cards. So let's say we're doing the thing with Bioengineered Future to give something +3/+3 when it comes into play. And then you suddenly draw 3 cards because Terra Symbiosis is already in play also. That's bananas. That's really cool. I like that a lot. That's really, really nice. Okay, So we got some multicolored cards here. Let's take a look at these. Biotech Specialist. Red and green for a 1/3. Insect Scientists. I like bugs. I like them. They're cool. When this creature enters, create a lander token. Okay, that's pretty awesome already. And whenever you sacrifice an artifact, this creature deals 2 damage to target opponent. Okay, so this is really great. So we take Biotech Specialist, and then we pair it with Weapons Manufacturing, and we find a way to sacrifice artifact tokens. So let's say maybe we play this in a Jund deck. So we play Weapons Manufacturing. When this token leaves the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target. That's what the munitions say. And then down here, the Biotech Specialist, whenever you sacrifice an artifact, this creature deals 2 damage to target opponent. So that turns all of those munitions into deal 4 to opponent's face. And then you get a benefit from playing like bargain cards in black or red. That's really good. That's going to be a deck right there. I guarantee that's going to be a deck. It'll be like Jund Self-Sacrifice. And if it doesn't become a deck, I will make it a deck. It will be cool. Cosmogoyf is a star and then 1+ star. This creature's power is equal to the number of cards you own in exile, and its toughness is equal to that number +1. So if you're playing a Exile Matters kind of deck, Cosmogoyf will be pretty damn good, especially because he only costs 2 to play, a black and a green. Gene Morph Imago. For a green and a blue, that's Simic colors, you get an Insect Druid, 1/3, flying, and it has landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, target creature has base power and toughness 3/3 until end of turn. If you control 6 or more lands, that creature has base power and toughness 6/6 until end of turn. That's pretty bananas. And I can definitely see this being like a great limited card, especially for breaking stalemates in the late game. Infinite Guideline Station. So this is a legendary artifact spacecraft that requires all 5 colors to play. And it reads, when Infinite Guideline Station enters, create a tapped 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token for each multicolored permanent you control. Okay, so you're going to need a lot of multicolored permanents to make this good. And then it stations for 12. And it reads, a 7/15 creature with flying, and whenever Infinite Guideline Station attacks, draw a card for each multicolored permanent you control. So, you're going to play this in a deck that has a lot of multicolored permanents. Maybe you play it with Gene Morph Imago, maybe you play with Biotech Specialist and Cosmogoyf. Lots of like multicolored permanents right there. He comes in, you make a bunch of dudes, you tap down, Infinite Guideline Station becomes a creature immediately, and then you get to refill your hand, draw a bunch of cards when it attacks. Way too many hoops. Way too many hoops for this to jump through for it to do anything. I don't like this card. It is a cool card, great art, very cool effect, but this just screams Commander. Like, this is in no way, shape, or form a competitive card. So you do not have to worry about seeing this in Standard. Okay, next up, we have Mutinous Massacre for 3 colorless, double black, and double red. Sorcery. Choose odd or even. Destroy each creature with mana value of the chosen quality. Then, gain control of all creatures until end of turn. Untap them. They gain haste until end of turn. Oh my god. That is insane. Like, it's really expensive and really niche and requires your opponents to have like a lot of creatures for you to steal. But that's a cool card. That is really cool. I like that a lot. Oh man, especially if you have ways to sacrifice the stolen creatures at end of turn. Beautiful. Love it. Okay, next up we have Ragost, the Deft Gastronaut. 2/2 for a red and a white. Legendary creature Lobster Citizen. Artifacts you control are foods, in addition to their other types, and have pay 2 colorless, tap, sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. 1 and tap, sacrifice a food. Ragost deals 3 damage to each opponent. Okay, that's really good. So he gets to throw food at people. At the beginning of each end step, if you gained life this turn, untap Ragost. Pretty cool. Okay, so here's another thing about Ragost. is Ragaz turns all of your artifacts into foods. So remember earlier, we were talking about the munitions, right? The munitions needed a way to be sacrificed in order to deal damage. You play the munitions with Ragaz, and use his ability to turn them all into food, and then you pay 1 tap, sacrifice a food. That munition is a food, so you sacrifice it. Ragaz deals 3 damage to each opponent. Suddenly, they did 5 damage to the opponent's face, or 3 damage to the opponent's face, and then 2 additional damage to any other target. That's a combo waiting to happen. That's pretty good. I like that a lot. That's really cool. At the beginning of each end step, if you gained life this turn, untap Ragaz. Okay, so he's going to be flinging a lot of food. Ragaz is cool. Sammy, Wildcat Captain. 4 colorless, a red and a white. 4/4. Double strike vigilance. Spells you cast have affinity for artifacts. Okay, that's a little bonkers. Affinity for artifacts is a very dangerous place to be, especially if you can play a lot of them really quickly. That's pretty good. I like that. Will we be seeing this play? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, stranger things have happened. But I don't think I want to pay 6 mana for something like that, though. Next up, we have Singularity Rupture. 3 colorless, a blue, and 2 black. Sorcery. Destroy all creatures, then any number of target players each mill half their library. What? Oh, that's bananas. It's really expensive, but that is bananas. 3 colorless, a blue, and double black for a Wrath effect and a Traumatize, all wrapped up into 1. That's actually insane. I actually really like that card. I think I'm going to find a way to play that. That is really cool. Not only is it a Traumatize effect, but it's a Wrath effect that is specifically Dimir. We have not seen a Dimir-specific Wrath effect in I don't know how long. That's actually really cool. I like that a lot. Okay, and we have a couple colorless here. We have Anti-Causal Vestige. For 6 mana, you get a 7/5 Eldrazi. When this creature leaves the battlefield, draw a card. Then you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. And it has a warp cost of 4. That's actually really good. The fact that it's colorless, meaning you can put it into any deck. It's a 7/5. You can warp it in for 4. And when you warp it in, it goes on the table and it says, when this creature leaves the battlefield, draw a card. Then you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. That is so good. So you warp it in it on turn 4. You're going to have 4, maybe 5 lands out. When it goes away end of turn, you just plop anything from your hand onto the table. That's really good. Like, I don't like that it doesn't do it like when it comes into play, but it does it when it leaves play. But I think that's probably from a balancing standpoint, which is pretty good. And also it says when this creature leaves the battlefield, not when it dies or when it goes into exile. So you can bounce this yourself and then put a permanent onto the table and then do it again later. That's actually pretty good for like a self-bounce style deck. Yeah, that's pretty good. I hate to admit it, but that's a good Eldrazi. That's a really good one. Yeah. And Tezzeret, we've seen him before. Really cool card. Okay, moving on. We have some artifacts here. So we have Dawnsire, the Sunstar Dreadnought. This is a 5 colorless legendary artifact spacecraft with station. And it has 2 station abilities. If you station it to 10+, it comes online and it says whenever you attack, Dawnsire deals 100 damage to up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. So it says whenever you attack, not whenever this attacks. So you attack with like any other creature, and then you call down an orbital strike onto another creature. So immediately, this card wants me to play it in red to blast the hell out of a Screaming Nemesis to then deal 100 damage to my opponent's face. That already makes me want to do that. And then at 20+, it gains flying and becomes a 20/20 and just beats up your opponent. Just one-shots them. Pretty Pretty interesting card, but again, it's that station effect. Like, having to station up to 10 plus to get the first effect, it's just a little too cute. It's like paying 5 mana to do nothing immediately is really bad. Having to station to 10 points before this does anything makes it even worse. It's like, it's a pretty cool effect, but it's just not good. It's like the only way I can feasibly see this scene play is, let's say you play it in a Gruul deck, and you are using green to ramp up, or to like play like a bunch of creatures so that you can get those counters on it. Or maybe say you're playing green so that you can have access to doubling season, so that for every charge counter you put on it, you put double on that. So then you only need to tap 5 power worth of a creature. And then you attack with whatever creature is still available, and then call down the orbital strike on a Screaming Nemesis and blast your opponent to smithereens. That's the only way I can see this card really seeing play. But again, that's so many hoops you got to jump through just for this one effect. I just don't think it's good. Next up, the Dominion Bracelet. 2 colorless legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has a 15 colorless mana. Exile the Dominion Bracelet. You control target opponent during their next turn. This ability costs X less to activate, where X is the creature's power. Activate only as a sorcery and has an equip cost of 1. So this is the new Mindslaver. So if you don't remember what the Mindslaver is, I don't blame you. It's a really old card. But basically, when you control your opponent's turn, you basically take over their turn for them and you make all decisions for them. So you get to see their hand and anything that that player would normally see. So then you get access to their hand, you can play their lands, play their spells, you can end the turn by attacking with all of their blockers or tapping out all of their mana, so they basically would go shields down for you when you take your turn to swing back on them. So it's a really, really powerful effect, but that mana cost is way too steep. It is way too steep. I mean, it's a possibility. Like, let's say you get this on like a 6/6 creature, and then Dominion Bracelet gives it +1/+1. So suddenly it's a 7 power creature. 15 minus 7 is still 8. You're still paying 8 mana to activate this ability. Like, it is possible, but it's a large investment just to do the same thing that Mindslaver did much easier. So I don't know about that one. Next up, we have the Endstone. 7 colorless mana for a legendary artifact. Whenever you play a land or cast a spell, draw a card. Wow, that's a really cool effect. Really powerful. I see nothing wrong with that. At the beginning of your end step, your life total becomes half your starting life total, rounded up. That's something I see a problem with. But it can actually be a good thing too. Let's say you're getting pummeled, like you're at like 5 health, and then you play the Endstone, and then you go to the beginning of your end step, and your life total becomes 10 because you started the game at 20 health. Now you're at 10 health. So that actually ended up saving you a little bit. And then hopefully you're playing enough stuff to make it so that you can stabilize at that point and then start really going off with the Endstone. That could be pretty cool. I like it. It's a very interesting card, and it's definitely plays into that risk versus reward gameplay, which is something I like. Okay, next up. The Eternity Elevator. 5 colorless mana for a legendary artifact spacecraft. It taps for 3 colorless mana. Okay, that's pretty cool. I like that. And it stations for 20. Getting back to that station cost. And 20 plus, tap, add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of charge counters on the Eternity Elevator. Okay, so you get it to 20 charge counters, and you can then tap it for 20 mana of any color, and then do whatever you want for the rest of the game. So that is a pretty cool effect, but again, it requires you to get to 20 counters with the Eternity Elevator. So I wish you luck if you're trying to make that work. But again, that's probably something you'll see maybe in Commander, not in Standard. Okay, next up, we have the Extinguisher Battleship. That's pretty cool. 8 colorless mana for an artifact space shift. And it says, when this spacecraft enters, destroy target non-creature permanent. Then this spacecraft deals 4 damage to each creature. Let's read that again. When it enters, destroy target non-creature permanent. Then this spacecraft deals 4 damage to each creature. That's pretty damn good. Because you can bring this in, blow up someone's like enchantment or something, and then blast the rest of the board for 4. That's pretty cool. For 8 mana, it's a bit much, but it's pretty cool. I mean, it does curve in pretty well with the Eternity Elevator. If you pay 5 mana for the Eternity Elevator, it taps for 3 colorless. And then the next turn, play a land and then tap out, you get Extinguisher Battleship. Like the next turn, that's actually pretty good. And the station cost is 5+. It becomes a 10/10 flying trample. Okay, actually, that's probably one of the most reasonable stations I've seen so far. That's actually not too shabby. This one might actually see play. But again, that's a huge might. And then we have the Thrumming Hive Pool. I believe most of us have seen this by now. It's a 6 colorless artifact with affinity for slivers. And it says this spell costs 1 colorless less to cast for each sliver you control. Slivers you control have double strike and haste. At the beginning of your upkeep, create 2 1/1 colorless sliver creature tokens. So I have not seen any other slivers in this set so far. And I think it'd be really, really funny if this card, this obvious sliver support card, is the only sliver card in this entire set. I think that would be absolutely hilarious. And then we have our lands. We have Adagia, the Windswept Bastion. It is a land planet, enters tapped. You can tap it for white, and it stations at 12+ with an ability that says 3, 1 white, tap. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact or enchantment you control, except it's legendary. Activate only as a sorcery. Interesting. So you can make a copy of something, but the new copy will be legendary. That's very interesting. And my question is, like, let's say, for example, you copy something that is non-legendary, and then you put the new copy into play. Would the legend rule affect if one target is legendary but the other one isn't? I'm very curious about that. I don't know if it's going to trigger the legend rule or not. We'll have to find out. Next up, Breeding Pool. That's our green and blue Shockland. Evendo, Waking Haven. Enters tapped as a planet. Station, adds for green, and you can pay 12+ to station it to unlock the ability of pay green, tap, add 1 green for each creature you control. So it basically becomes a Gaia's Cradle that you have to jump a lot of hoops through to make happen. But once you get there, that's pretty damn cool. Godless Shrine, that is our Orzhov Shockland. Next up is Cavaron Memorial World. Land planet, enters tapped, taps for red, stations at 12. Ability is 1 in a red, tap, sacrifice a land, create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. Then, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end turn. Okay, that's awesome. So, you pay 2 and tap, sacrifice a land to create a 3/2 haste robot. That's actually pretty decent. Okay. Then Sacred Foundry, that is our Shockland for red and white. Stomping Ground is our Shockland for green and red. Then we have Susur Secundi, the Void Altar. This is a land planet. This is your black land planet. Enters tapped, taps for a black, stations at 12. Ability is pay 1 and a black, tap, pay 2 life. And also sacrifice a creature. So that's a lot to pay. So you have to pay 2 mana, tap the land, pay 2 life, and sacrifice a creature. Draw cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power. Activate as... Wow. So that's basically greater good without the downside of having to discard 3 cards. That's actually really, really good. I like that a lot. You can sacrifice something with like power 4 and just draw 4 cards. That's actually bonkers. I like that. I can see this being like a one of in certain decks. But again, it is a station, so you have to tap up to 12 power to get that ability active. So I don't know how often that's going to happen. Next up is Uthros, the Titanic God Core. It is the blue planet. It enters tapped, it adds a blue, and station 12 plus. Blue tap, add a blue for each artifact you control. So, good for those artifact decks. And then last we have the Watery Grave, which is the Dimir Shockland. So, not too bad. We have in this set quite a few really cool cards, and I am very excited to get my hands on my physical copies of these cards so we can play some games. This is going to be really, really cool. So yeah, there it is. That is our new spoils for the day. So we will be checking back on this spoiler list pretty often just to see what we're getting in the next few days before this set starts to go live. So as always, I thank you very much for spending your time with me. Why don't you tell me in the comments down below what cards you're most excited to be playing with, and we can kind of talk it out and see what cards are going to be good and which ones are a little overrated. So, until next time, take care of yourselves.